Hello, I'm Steve Kogut, and I'm the Director of the Tracking and Evaluation Key Component Activity for Advance-CTR. This webinar will present results of our December 2017 retreat, in which group concept mapping was utilized to gain participant views regarding how we can increase the quality and quantity of clinical and translational research in Rhode Island. We will start with a brief recap of the group concept mapping process, followed by a presentation of the results of the process with insights to what participants consider to be the most important and feasible ways in which we can enhance clinical and translational research, or CTR, in Rhode Island. Following this presentation, we ask that you complete a brief survey about this webinar and to share your comments and ideas. I am pleased to present these results on behalf of Advance-CTR's Tracking and Evaluation team, listed here. The mission of Advance-CTR is to support clinical and translational researchers in Rhode Island through funding, research resources and services, and professional development opportunities in order to fuel discoveries that improve overall health in the state. Advance-CTR was established in July 2016 after receiving a 5-year IDEA-CTR Program Award by the National Institute of General Medical Sciences. It serves as a central hub to support and educate clinical and translational researchers in Rhode Island. What will we be covering in this webinar? In the slides that follow, we will recap the group concept mapping process, explain how group concept mapping was applied by Advance-CTR, and present and interpret the results, as displayed with the use of cluster diagrams, ratings, and go-zone maps. We will conclude by highlighting key insights and discussing next steps. What is group concept mapping? Concept mapping is a validated approach to informed decision-making involving diverse stakeholders. It is a mixed methods, stakeholder-authored approach that provides rigorous analyses and data interpretation methods. Its outputs include maps to guide planning and evaluation efforts on issues that matter to the group, which in our case included researchers, institutional administrators and staff, and those involved with delivering the Advance-CTR program. We regarded group concept mapping as a novel and interesting approach to synthesize the views and ideas of Advance-CTR stakeholders. Our use of concept mapping was facilitated using the CS Global Max online tools provided by Concept Systems Incorporated. Group concept mapping is a participative process. It enables us to learn from the research community. The process began with a period of online brainstorming, which occurred during the weeks prior to our on-site retreat in December 2017. The brainstorming exercise provided us with ideas and comments that were then sorted and rated by retreat participants, and this yielded an understanding of the most important and feasible ideas for how we can support clinical and translational research in Rhode Island. The process enabled us to synthesize your views into actionable items to be considered by Advance-CTR leadership, advisory committees, and other stakeholders. The group concept mapping process begins with a focus prompt. In our project, we asked participants to tell us, what should we do to increase the quality and quantity of clinical and translational research in Rhode Island? Participants provided us with their ideas during the weeks that preceded the retreat, sharing their comments using the online concept mapping application. We received 150 brainstorm statements, these ideas from 75 respondents for how we can enhance CTR in Rhode Island. So what happened next? The 150 statements were then synthesized by our project team to yield a list of 78 unique items that were relevant to stakeholders. These ideas were then considered by retreat participants, who rated each item according to their perceived importance and feasibility. Additionally, participants were asked to sort the items into themes or clusters, which enabled us to better understand how the ideas group together and how different stakeholders perceive the relative importance and feasibility of these groupings or clusters. You can see here that attendance at the retreat represented all Advance-CTR partner institutions. This slide presents a screenshot of the sorting task that was completed by retreat participants. Generated ideas are listed on the left side of the screen, and participants were asked to drag each item into the workspace in the middle of the screen and to group the items according to any logical similarities that they deemed most suitable. Any number of groups or clusters was permitted, with most participants creating between 4 to 12 clusters. Now let's take a look at the results that were generated. In the slides that follow, we will present a point map, reveal a best-fitting cluster structure, and display pattern match and go zone diagrams that offer a visual presentation of the items in clusters according to their importance and feasibility as perceived by retreat participants. First displayed is a point map from which all other analyses are based. All 78 statements are represented on the point map, and thus each point represents a suggested idea for how we can increase the quality and quantity of CTR in Rhode Island. For example, point 13 right at the top was the idea to increase hard money support for research faculty, which was frequently grouped with item 20, which suggested to prioritize small business innovation research awards. And these items were less frequently grouped with item 17, located at the bottom of the map, which represented the idea to consult community stakeholders to identify key health needs. Areas with several points grouped together indicates that participants often tended to group these items together. There was more agreement among participants that these statements shared similar meaning. For points that are not close to other points, this does not mean that these statements could not be categorized. Rather, it means that there was little, if any, consensus regarding other statements with which it should be sorted. For example, point 72 at the center of the map suggested the need to improve recruitment of study patients. Some participants thought this belonged in a minority or special populations cluster, while others put it under community engagement, and still others put it into categories involving increased support for research. Now let's look at how the point map was used to create the cluster diagram. A range of cluster sizes and themes might be considered for how to best represent the data. For our purposes, we considered a 9-cluster structure as a best fit for our results, considering the nature of the items generated and reflecting the range of activities of our initiative. These 9 clusters portrayed here represent internal financial support for research, grant writing support, administration, training, minority and special populations, large databases, institutional collaboration, community engagement, and connections between researchers. How can the ratings and clusters be used in presenting results of the process? One example is that they can be used in a pattern match diagram to portray differences in how different groups rate the importance or feasibility of certain clusters. For instance, the pattern match diagram presented here compares how researchers and administrators rate those items according to their perceived importance. You'll note that both groups rated institutional collaboration, building connections, and large databases as highest in importance, while community engagement was ranked higher among administrators than by researchers. We have generated several diagrams that address differential ratings across institutions and by faculty rank and by funding experience, for example. These analyses provide valuable insights to Advance-CTR leadership and our advisors and stakeholders across our partner sites. We can also use item-level results to portray items that were considered both highly important and feasible using these go zone maps. In this map, feasibility is portrayed on the vertical axis and importance is depicted on the horizontal axis. The items within the green shaded box in the upper right quadrant denote these ideas that were rated highest in these dimensions. High importance and high feasibility items are circled and include providing seed grants to encourage new collaborations across basic science and clinical faculty, and to connect researchers with common interests. Grant writing support and mentoring were also highly rated. The yellow zone portrays items that were considered highly important, yet less feasible. These include reducing administrative barriers to collaboration and having a common IRB across institutions. Go zone results can also be presented by subgroups of interest. Here are the results considering solely the ratings of participants from the University of Rhode Island. Among this group, support for grant writing and seed grants were deemed most important and feasible. We can contrast these findings with the results specific to Brown University, whose participants rated items pertaining to collaboration and networking as most important and feasible. Participants from Lifespan, Care New England, and the VA Medical Center also identified seed grants for new collaborations as most important and feasible, and for this group, mentoring of junior faculty also appeared at the top. We also examined the top rated items within particular subgroups. Rated highest in importance among academic institutions was to reduce administrative barriers to collaboration, while administrators and staff viewed the promotion of technical and analytic resources as a most important idea. Also meriting attention, those without prior research funding rated the need to improve pre-award support for grant applications as a most important item. Among the totality of ideas generated by the community for improving the quality and quantity of CTR in Rhode Island, these 10 ideas were rated as the top according to their importance. They include many of the items identified earlier, such as providing seed grants, having a common IRB, reducing administrative barriers to collaboration, and improved support for grant writing and mentoring. Other top items included creating recurring networking opportunities that connect researchers from different domains, and creating a unified statewide directory of researcher expertise and projects. All of these items relate in some way to various aspects of the Advance-CTR program and are being thoughtfully considered by program leadership and shared for discussion across our community. Emanating from this top 10 list are key questions that Advance-CTR and its advisors are considering in applying the group concept mapping results to maximize the effectiveness of the Advance-CTR program. The top-ranked idea to provide seed grants to encourage new collaborations across basic science and clinical faculty challenges us to consider new ways to promote and accelerate collaborative research. Also highly ranked was the desire to have a common IRB between institutions. Key barriers to achieving this aim are being identified. Challenges regarding collaboration agreements and administrative barriers were also considered important to address, and we are seeking to identify the most problematic administrative aspects to interinstitutional collaboration. The need for enhanced pre-award support, including grant writing, caused us to ask, how can Advance-CTR services and educational offerings best be integrated with departmental resources for research support and development? Also deemed important were recurring networking opportunities and creation of a unified statewide directory of researcher expertise and projects. Advance-CTR is asking, what needs to happen to better connect researchers and projects? Effective mentoring was also rated as a highly important way in which we can increase the quality and quantity of CTR in Rhode Island. In particular, that junior faculty have experienced mentors with a track record of funding. This leads to the question, what are expectations of institutions, investigators, and junior investigators regarding mentorship? We have shared these results and questions with our steering committee and internal advisory board, which includes leadership for Advance-CTR's academic and institutional sites, and we are gaining their feedback and suggestions for how best to respond to these issues and ideas. The group concept mapping was an interesting and unique way to consider a range of ideas for improving CTR as offered by researchers, staff, and administrators, and yielded several key insights. Overall, the brainstormed ideas were rated highly by retreat participants, as most items were regarded as at least somewhat important and feasible. Among these ideas, collaboration between institutions and networking between researchers stood out as being rated both highly important and highly feasible. Addressing institutional barriers and IRB requirements were also rated as highly important, yet were considered less feasible. In general, we observed many areas of alignment between group concept mapping results and Advance-CTR services and award programs. Detail regarding these facets of Advance-CTR can be found at the Advance-CTR website. So as you can see, there are a range of ways in which the results of the group concept mapping activity are being disseminated. In addition to sharing the findings and key questions with Advance-CTR and among its stakeholders, presentations include the primary investigators meeting at the National Idea Symposium of Biomedical Research and Excellence and the American Evaluation Association's annual conference this fall. This concludes our webinar on group concept mapping for increasing the quality and quantity of clinical and translational research in Rhode Island. Thank you for viewing our presentation, and special thanks to those who participated in the process at our Year 2 retreat. We kindly ask that you complete a brief survey to provide your feedback about this webinar, and so that we may gain your continuing ideas for enhancing clinical and translational research in Rhode Island. Thanks again.